Good evening and welcome to the June 11th meeting of the Parks and Community Services Commission. I call this meeting to order exactly at 6 p.m. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Houston.
Please stand.
Thank you. Ms. Fatua, the roll call, please.
Let the record reflect all commissioners are present except for Vice Chair Wright, and she will be coming at a later time.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to open up the floor for public comments. If there's anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment on something not on the agenda, please come forward. Good evening.
I have a slideshow. Flo Martin. I submitted to Brenda this morning.
One moment.
Okay, while we're getting that queued up, would you like to start, sir?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Eric Jimenez, Executive Director for Bright Youth. We focus on serving the West Side communities and our children and families as well. I just wanted to bring up, there was a day where I was walking alongside Commissioner Cristian Garcia Arcos, and we're on Charles Street, and we noticed this like empty parcel of land that I thought was like super fascinating and interesting, and it just made me wonder what the possibilities and like uses of that land could be. I don't know if the city owns it. I don't know if it's privately owned, but it's right next to that Hamilton community garden, and so I just had a bunch of questions about it, and I would encourage the commission to look into that and just see what we could do with it. Could it be a new park? Could it be a new community garden? Could it be a community center? It was just there. It was just a bunch of trash. And so, yeah, I just had a bunch of questions about it. And I would just, me being like a visionary, like I just see so much that could be there. And so, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, thank you.
There we go. Thank you. Are we ready with our presentation?
I would like to see the first slide, please. That's not it. There we go. Thank you. I have lived off of Fair Drive for the last 55 years, and I've watched the trees that line both sides of Fair Drive between Harbor and Newport grow and flourish. I used to love watching them on my trips, either by car or on foot. A few months ago, our tree trimming service damaged the trees terribly. And then they came back a few months later and made the situation even worse. The trees no longer look good. They're spindly, they're misformed. Pardon my French, they look shitty. And they don't provide shade, which I need now as a pedestrian. Next slide. Look at this. This is no longer a tree. It's a spindly excuse for a tree. Next slide. This is horrible, misshapen. Just walking over here this afternoon, I saw that the trees in front of City Hall look terrible also. They have been emasculated more or less. Next slide. Yuck. Picture worth 1,000 words. Next slide. Next slide. This tree used to be lush and full. Now it's a sorry sight. Next slide. Next slide. Look at the one across the street. Just horrible. Just horrible. And I think the tree trimming service is charging beaucoup bucks for their raison d'être. Next slide. No shade, no beauty, no green. Next slide. Look at that. Unbelievable. Next slide. That's it. I think the city of Costa Mesa needs to take a hard, close look at the contract for the tree trimming service and the amount of money that they get from our city, because they're not doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, commissioners and fellow community members. My name is Jim Stevenson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of my wife to speak about the Costa Mesa Tennis Center and Aussie Teagues Tennis proposal to operate the center. So my wife has played at the tennis center for over 15 years. She used to play there about 5 times a week. Now she's there about once a month at best. And she says that she just doesn't feel it has the same sense of community. Yeah, and she would like to see it be a stronger hub, as a hub for the local tennis community. So what does Aussie Teagues Tennis have to offer? So first of all, Aussie Teagues Tennis offers opportunity to have local leadership as well as established veteran operators and continuity. Teague has the support from former operators Hank and Maureen Lloyd, as well as Eduardo Reyes, who's worked there for quite a number of years as well. I'll give you a couple examples of my wife's interaction with Hank and also Eduardo. She's done clinics with Hank for all these years, her and her friends. He's no longer there, so she and her friends go all the way to Anaheim to continue playing in clinics with Hank, because everybody loves Hank. So Hank is a great asset to the club. Eduardo as well. My wife told me the story. One time she was there for a league match, and this was after the new operators, the current operators took over, and Eduardo is no longer working there, but he was there to pick up things on the day of their match. It was wet, and there was only one person working, and so the courts were wet, so they would have had to not play their game, forfeit the game. But Eduardo saw what was going on, stepped in, squeezed off the court so they could play, so they wouldn't have to forfeit the game. So Hank and Maureen are valuable to Aussie Teagues' proposal. So I'd like to give you a few words about Teague as well. Teague is a local resident of Newport Mesa. This is important because you want to have local operators running the place. I know that Teague has experience running tennis centers in the past. He's friendly, approachable, enthusiastic, willing to listen, and will be on site on a regular basis. I also know that he's very interested in what the community has to say.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming out. Ms. Fatua, my computer is glitching as we take public comment. Would it be possible to get some help with that? Thank you. Yes, welcome.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm here as a 31-year resident of Costa Mesa. I am here as a 20 years plus patron of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center, starting with my son, starting at 6 years old, taking lessons from Eduardo. He went on to play on Eduardo's USTA junior teams, and he has several of them, so he accommodates all ages, both girls and boys, and went on to play as the singles one player for Costa Mesa High School 4 years running. So we plant these seeds in the community, and the community resources and facilities help us grow those kids into what they become as adults. But the one thing that it encouraged me to do, because I love Costa Mesa, is I became the Costa Mesa head coach, tennis boys and girls program at Costa Mesa. I'm going into my 6th year now. And as you probably know, about 2 years ago, our courts became deteriorated enough to not be playable. So I was in a real pickle. It was hard enough to get kids into the program and keep them in the program, but yet with no facility, where would we play? And I want to tell you that I turned to Hank and Maureen, and Carsten and Cameron Ball, who were operators at the time. I've known these people for 20 years because I've been as a player, I was a player's mom, now I'm actually a coach, big part of the community. And they said, no problem, Lo, we've got your back. And for the first several months of us trekking from the high school, over 15 minutes through T. Winkle Park over to the tennis center, and then back at the end of practice, they gave us the courts for free. They didn't charge us at all, which was amazing because we have no money, right? Costa Mesa, really, no liquidity. Well, we do, but, you know. So after a while, I thought, well, maybe I can find some money. And I did, and I was able to compensate them at the going rate then for the rest of the months that we needed coverage for. And in just a few months ago, our amazing, beautiful courts were completed. I am ecstatic with the new facilities. I even have an umpire's chair. I'm afraid of heights, so I don't go up it. But it's been such a boost to the program. I have more kids now this year than I have had before. But that wouldn't have happened without that. So, just want to say, whoever you put in there, I haven't seen the operators at all, the interim operators.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you coming out tonight. Good evening. Welcome, sir.
My name is Christian Sotelo. I'm a lifelong resident of Costa Mesa, and lately I've had a couple concerns. I enjoy going to Canyon Park and to Fairview Park. They're super connected, and I'm also excited for the new Randall Preserve as soon as it opens. But lately, I found on Instagram a page called Creek Team, and they've been exposing the use of herbicides by our local Orange County Public Works. And apparently even the Orange County Water District are even complicit in targeting certain ecosystems that a lot of our local birds rely on, especially I enjoy bird watching, so I'm really concerned about them destroying their habitats. Specifically down the Santa Ana River, biologists captured a video of them just bulldozing some nests. And soon after, the Orange County Water District, they try to deny any claims against habitat destroying, but I would urge the commission to look into the use of herbicides within maybe Fairview Park, because I know they're working on it now, doing some necessary work towards it, but I would recommend against the use of herbicides if that's in use. And I would also encourage the commission to encourage the county of supervisors to also stop the use of herbicides, because it's a threat to our public health, and it's also a threat to our environment and to local ecosystems. And it's even against federal law potentially, because it's going against the Migratory Bird Species Act. It's going against endangered species. So in the time of climate change and where they're already facing a lot of concerns and issues, it's time for us to speak up for what's right and stop the use of herbicides. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry, my screen is going crazy. I'm having trouble, it comes on and off. So apologies for the awkwardness, extra awkward today. Thank you. Here we go. We're
Let me reset real
losing
quick.
all of them. We're going to pause for a moment and then we'll turn to public comment online.
If there are any members on Zoom who wish to speak, please raise your hand. Chair, I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we turn to commissioner comments and suggestions. I'm going to turn this way tonight and start with Commissioner Houston.
Hi, y'all. Sorry I missed you last month here, but I am looking forward to tonight's meeting and a good, productive discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Hey everybody, thank you for coming out. And echo. It's working. I wanted to echo a few things that were mentioned that caught my attention. Thank you, Eric, for mentioning that. I think it is a great opportunity to be able to see empty spaces that could potentially be something that we can use to expand parks or even the need for community gardens. I know there's a high demand, and we'll go over those details later today. And thank you, Flo, for bringing that to our attention. I think it's important for us to understand what's going on with these trees. And as part of my comments, before I get to those, I wanted to also celebrate. I wasn't here last month, but we were celebrating our 92nd anniversary at the annual conference, Western Chapter International Society of Arboriculture in Yosemite. And it was a total success. And I encourage the city to get involved in these spaces because we have city arborists. We have some of the best arborists within the Western Chapter, which is Hawaii, Nevada, Arizona, and California. And so in those spaces, we're able to collaborate. We're able to network. And so we don't have these solutions, so we lean on other experts that have dedicated their lives to research on specific items. So I encourage the city for next year. We'll have it here in California again, so I'm really excited to share more information as time goes by. And thank you so much, Christian, for sharing that. I had the opportunity to go with the Creek team this week on Tuesday, and we're amazed with all the work that they've been doing. If you haven't seen them already, I recommend that you follow them. They're 4 months young, and they're already moving things within the county and the state level. So I really encourage you to follow them if that's something that is within your hearts to better understand about herbicides. So now going to my comments. I will start by thanking city staff for celebrating the 250th year anniversary of the country, and because of that, we're able to plant 250 trees throughout the city. So I'm really excited in that direction that we're going. And then I saw the post on social media from a member in our community. She, and I quote, "The city of Costa Mesa tree trimming company has ruined what once were beautiful, lush shade trees on Fair Drive." When I saw these posts, and I want to share with you what I noticed that the canopy was raised extremely aggressively, and they pruned in a way that is called lion's tail. So lion's tail, for those who are not familiar with that, is a destructive, improper pruning practice where the inner branches, foliage, and lateral growth are stripped from the tree, leaving only a tuft of leaves at the very end of the limbs. It resembles the tuft of a lion, an African lion, and severely compromises the tree's health. The same thing was done to our coast live oaks and olive trees at the Lions Park, right? Lions tailing there. And so commissioners, if you have time, please go look at these trees, especially the oaks, and compare these Google images prior to this pruning. You will notice that the trees have been declining since the pruning, with lots of decay in the base, if you look at the base as well. So I encourage you all to just see these issues that are happening. let's take a minute to ourselves and ask, could we have done something different? And it's sad to see these living organisms decline and die because of our acts. And so there are other ways that we can approach this. So so I encourage the commission to prioritize tree health. This is the Parks and Community Commission services. And so if we can prioritize tree health and have the, as a whole, maybe we can decide later on today to bring this up to our agenda in the future, hopefully in the fall. But that's all my comments for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorn Parker. I give up.
Thank you. Actually, it's good that I'm following Commissioner Garcia Arcos. So I too look at the 250 trees being planted in honor of our 250 years of our Constitution. And it made me think about the work we are doing as a commissioner, as a commission, and many of us as commissioners, about we requested and received what we call a canopy study. And what I really am going to fight against is we take this study that we spend a lot of resources, time, and our effort reviewing it and trying to understand how that overlaid against those parts of our community where I'm going to call them canopy deserts that really don't have. And I've been told that it's because a lot of that exists on private property, which means we really need to come up with an idea and plans of private partner partnerships, work with our other entities like our water district. How can we continue to just plant plants? And I really appreciate that Mr. Setharaman, or as we know as Raja, did explain that 250 trees a year is not that unusual. What's unusual is that council member brought it to our attention because it happened to match. So my question is, we really need to look back at the canopy, figure out where are the largest deserts where they don't have trees. And we were told, and I've studied it since I saw that, and most are parking lots that are privately owned that we know are heat generation. So of course I explained we must do better and we must use the resources we found and the data. So I understand we're supposedly the tree city, but we really need to come up with a multi-year plan of how are we going to bring in those private owners? How are we going to support them pulling away some of their asphalt? We're going to need to provide the trees for them. We're going to need to provide, because we don't necessarily have the paid staff, but work with community groups like Trellis, but we're going to need to reach out to our elected officials in the Mesa Water District and see how do we ensure when they put those trees in that they're allowed to have resources from our water district that doesn't impact their private business bottom line. I am not going to be done with this, because if indeed we're planting an average of 250 trees a year, where are they going? Also, what species? Are we looking at the Sonoran Desert, which have beautiful canopy trees that can withstand desert climate as we move there? And also, what is deeply disturbing is how our current contract is destroying our existing tree canopies. So we can't just keep running in circles of planting new trees to only have our existing trees be decimated. And I believe this is really critical that we took a huge step. The city council agreed, and now we have this canopy study. We cannot allow that just to sit and say, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we don't have the people. That doesn't work for me. We can't do it overnight, but we certainly can develop a triage. We certainly can develop a template. We've been known as a commission to develop templates. And I, for one, would love to work with our Commissioner Garcia Arcos. I'm going to volunteer you to sit down with our team and talk about how are you going to take this product and turn it into action. Because I am not okay having my hands go up and say, well, since 80% of the problem is private parking lots and we can do nothing, that is not in my vocabulary. So I'm horrified that it's just being told, well, it can't happen because of all this. And if we have to, we'll go to our elected officials. We have some wonderful elected officials that maybe can help with grants. Also, I know Commissioner Garcia Arcos has resources from, I'm going to call tree-friendly organizations that would love to have this opportunity to help support that. But also, I'm going to talk a little bit farther about our park assessment. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. We have demanded as a commission the data. We have to start somewhere. And we now have so much of the community because of this park assessment, because all of us are doing an amazing job of engaging our communities. Now we're getting emails from communities saying, hey, what about our park? I read the survey. I read and understand what we can have or what we can't have. So again, we really cannot just put it on a shelf. It is not perfect. We know that. And many of us are reaching within our communities to understand what is exactly happening that could go on a regular maintenance schedule, sidewalks, some broken half walls, but also how do we use the assessment knowing what it is with all its flaws, but it's a start and to create a plan. We can't get to a $3 million plan by waiting till $3 million is there. We can start with 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. And then you start by identifying it, and then you go with your wins. And I know a lot of people are looking at Brentwood Park. That took 15 years to accomplish. So I'm not saying we have to wait 15 years, but it took that community who realized they had been promised that 12 years prior to begin to work in the process in order to gain what it is that that community asked for and demanded. And our city council agreed. But we also agreed that for them to get the park, we needed to get help and grants from our elected officials. This is a long, long issue, and I'm sorry I'm taking up that much time, but I'm not going to let go of the data we developed, of the time we all took to gain that data and the price that the taxpayers. And thank you for bringing up the pesticides and the herbicides. We know our city, our supervisor, Katrina Foley, was made aware of that in South County. And now we need to make sure she makes aware of what's going on in our part of her district. So thank you for bringing that up. And that was something I was going to ask her anyway. But I'm just so proud of this commission. And now the work really has to get started. I'm not letting this go on a shelf or in a file. So thank you.
Okay, let's keep it rolling. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Kamala.
All right, good evening, everyone. Just want to start by saying thank you to city staff for your partnership and getting us access to community gardens and all the information. Thank you to Commissioner Ledger and Commissioner Garcia Arcos for spending the weekend and popping in and visiting the parks and with the measuring tape in hand. So that was fun. And just thank you to the residents that were out there that we got to meet. A lot of great information, insight, and some tasty vegetables too. Thanks. So just thank you for that. We're super excited to present some of our initial thoughts, but we're even more excited to hear from the community on how we can make the space more accessible to get more people to celebrate that space. From the Fairview Park Steering Committee meeting yesterday, they brought up concerts in the park having a date. They brought up possibly having a booth there to use it as an opportunity to educate the community about Fairview Park, everything from e-bikes to the wildlife there. I think that's something that we could possibly look at partnering with them on. They also announced that Coastal Corridor, they're working on a reserve watch program, which sounds super exciting. We all know that the coverage at Fairview Park from a ranger standpoint is not end to end, right? It's pretty slim and they do what they can. But working through a reserve watch program, they're going to look at community volunteers. I think there were 20 subgroup, or there were 3 subgroups. Within each subgroup, they were hoping to get 20 volunteers, and from those volunteers, they were going to be able to support with more, I guess, information. They can't necessarily enforce, but I think that's a good plan, and they're already doing it at Bolsa Chica Reserve, so sounds like there's a lot of results there. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention what Brian mentioned yesterday. There is the Voices in Unity choir. On July 3rd, they're having a performance, and they're looking for 250 volunteers to join the choir. And I see some people in the room right now that could probably sing, so that would be great. So I think he said we needed like 200 more for that date. So he was pretty excited about that. So I just want to share that. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ledger.
I didn't really have any comments prepared for tonight. I didn't think I had anything to say, but with all the talk about trees and the public comments, I do want to point out that having mature trees on streets does cut down on car accidents. On Adams, when I first moved to where I live now 16 years ago, the trees were too short to block the sun, and the sun was in my eyes every morning driving to work and every night coming home. And those trees finally got mature enough to block the sun, and now they're doing work on Adams and cut down all those trees. So yeah, I understand what everyone's saying about the trees. I hate when trees get trimmed. They look just, they no longer look nice, and they're not shady. So we do need to really look into that. And then I would love to know if we are using any pesticides in Fairview Park. And I think that's, they announced today in the news that we are officially in an El Nino year, and there's a 65% chance that it's going to be like the 1997-98 El Nino. So just want to make sure we're prepared as we can on any possible flooding in parks or trees falling. Whenever we get a lot of heavy rain, we tend to have a tree here and there fall. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I'm going to also stay on the topic of trees, and I'm so glad Commissioner Dorn Parker shared her thoughts on the tree canopy assessment. I think as included in our report of what we want to achieve this year to City Council, it's taking these plans and making sure they're being used to their greatest potential. And I really believe in the synergy between the tree canopy assessment and the pedestrian master plan. So we're already going to be investing, and for you to talk about how it increases and makes our streets safer, it slows down traffic, it shields pedestrians, it's literally a barrier for a car hitting you. So I would love to see us look at those areas we're already targeting with public works funds and ensuring that we maybe double up on our tree goal for those corridors, intersections. And then for residential, we also identified that multi-units and mobile park homes were low on trees. So once again, public-private partnership, showing them the data. The thing about trees and real estate is it increases the value of your property. So it's an easy sell, not to mention it's beautiful and your residents will love it. So I'm really glad we're all just bringing that to the forefront of our minds as we go into our meeting. Another thing I wanted to highlight is in our consent calendar, we have park ranger reports back. So I'm welcoming them with open arms. I'm so grateful. The chair and I had an amazing meeting with the chief this month, and she's going to be working with her data team to see how much we can elevate this monthly report versus right now. I'm just happy it's back, and I just wanted to bring the public's attention to it as well, that it will be here on a regular cadence. Would maybe love to pull it in the future for us to discuss if there's anything, important towards what we're talking about. And that's something that we talked with the chief about, is how we could use that data to inform things like where a future pocket dog park could go, for example. So we're definitely trying to think creatively about this data and making sure it's getting used. And yeah, all in all, looking forward to the meeting, and apologies for my tardiness, but I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just have a few comments. And first, I do want to start by thanking city staff. This is the season where a lot of us take vacations. The work at the university calms down. I actually get a chance to do those projects that I've been putting on hold. But I know for our Parks and Rec staff, it is definitely not that time. It's when everything is ramping up. So I just want to say thank you to those in the room. And if you could take this back to all of the staff that you work with, that we really appreciate all of the care and attention that you show all the people who are coming through our city. on all of those different programs. So thank you for that. I know it's a really busy time, and I just want to acknowledge that. Also, would love an update as to the opening of Neat Coffee at Lions Park. So if you have any updates in the director's report, it would be great. And if not, just a reminder that many of us are really excited for that. So keep us in the loop so that we can put it on our calendars. Thank you, Vice Chair, for updating on the meeting with the chief. In addition to that, I won't repeat it. We will still get our, I think it's biannual report from Costa Mesa PD. They will send someone in person to come and talk through the reports with us. So we're glad to have, or I'm glad to have the reports back. If you have substantive questions, just a heads up to the commissioners, they've asked us to hold them for when there are presentations by Costa Mesa PD so that they can be here to actually provide the data and the response. So just a heads up around that, and for the public too. Something has come up online, conversations around when we sign up for summer activities. And there's been a robust conversation around how the dates for Costa Mesa programs, for our summer programs for youth, is far later than other cities. So this is just something that I've been tracking online. I would love to have a conversation about that at some point to understand why it is that we are opening up our program so late. Why wouldn't we want to open it up at least when other cities like Newport Beach are opening up their programs? Is there a cost-benefit analysis to doing it later? The feedback that I've been privy to, that I've seen online on Facebook, is that it's more challenging for parents when we open it up later, and that opening up these summer programs earlier allows parents to get their kids in. You know, you can cross that off your list of like, what are you going to do with your kids for the summer? So that's just something I wanted to put on our radar. You know, and I haven't actually thought about that for years because my daughter is no longer doing that kind of work, but this is something that definitely Costa Mesa parents are thinking about. So that's something that I just wanted to put out there. And then I actually just want to follow up on the tree issue. So I just hear this as some marching orders for us as a commission that we would like to move forward, or certainly there's significant interest in moving forward, some sort of agenda item for the future around trees. And it sounds like there's a variety of things that we could talk about and analyze. It could be data reports. It could be looking at that contract, which is something that I know we would like to do in the next year. There are probably other things that some of us haven't weighed in on, but I hear you all, I hear the commissioners, I hear the public, so thank you for turning out. I think it's safe to say, Vice Chair, you can feel free to disagree, but we will have conversations about this so that we can figure out how best to move it forward in a future agenda. Okay. My computer is going crazy again. I'm going to work off my laptop, but just a heads up that it's still a challenge for me. With that, I'm going to close commissioner comments and suggestions and move to the consent calendar. And unless there's been a request to pull any item or there's a request from any commissioners, I'm open to a movement.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Commissioners may vote on your dais. Motion carries 7-0 to approve consent calendar items.
Thank you. And with that, we will turn to monthly reports. Ms. Villasenor, I hand it over to you for the Parks and Community Services Director's update.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Commission. My name is Monique Villasenor. You realize that I am not Director Gruner tonight, so I'm filling in. But I do have a couple updates regarding our department tonight. So just want to address the Neat Coffee item. Just a quick update is that we do expect hopefully to have an opening in July. We're just working through some of the health permits that we need to get to finalize that opening. The registration date, we are aware of that, and we do look at comparison cities. There was a little bit of a delay for ours, but we're going to look into opening, especially our summer programming a little bit earlier. I know that was a comparison with Huntington Beach recently. It's a kind of, that city is a little bit of an outlier, but we're going to look at like how some other cities approach their summer registration and go from there. So with other updates, I know that Commissioner Kamala mentioned the 250th choir, so I wanted to go ahead and promote that again. We do have our annual July 3rd Independence Day celebration coming up at the fairgrounds. I encourage everybody to attend. We get, anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 people at this event. It's always a good time, but specifically now we're celebrating the 250th anniversary. And we have one of our arts commissioners, Commissioner Wondercheck, who has kind of taken the reins of organizing this 250th choir. And so they have rehearsals, and they have two different rehearsal times, one for youth and one for adults, happening now. The first one just happened last Tuesday. And so you're welcome to join, and it's open to everybody. So I encourage everybody, you don't have to be a good singer. You just have to be willing to come out and have fun. So it will be a very special time at the event on July 3rd. And then the last thing I want to bring up is our concerts in the park, which is also happening in July. We will not be meeting in July, but I wanted to promote our concerts in the park. But especially for our commissioners will have a booth. We had one in previous years, but we're going to be working with the commission to identify some top talking points for the commission. So be on the lookout for a survey from Ms. Fatua asking what some of the top priorities for this commission is, and then we'll organize kind of a priority list for you all. So just be on the lookout for that. And that's the extent of the updates I have for tonight.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Is there anyone in the chamber who would like to provide a public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
Not at this time.
Okay. Any commissioner comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Ledger.
For the choir, have you contacted the high schools and middle schools to see if there are students who do choir want to volunteer?
So Commissioner Wonderchuck is actually working with Tamara Fairbanks, who is the district's TOSA. So she's a teacher on special assignment, and she works with all the arts teachers and the choir music teachers. So she's been working with them, and we actually have 3, I think, or maybe 4 teachers who are helping organize the reins from the different schools.
Okay, and I think that was all I had. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Vice Chair Wright?
Hey, I'm curious how many, if any, submissions for the skate park RFP, or is it RFI that we put out? Must have been RFP, right? Did we RFI? How many did we get, if any? I think the due date was June 1st, right?
We're currently extending it because we have some other interested parties, so we're just waiting for some more information from those RFIs.
How many made it for the June 1st?
I would have to give an update and check in with Director Gruner because they would all be facilitating and going through there.
Okay. When is the extension date now?
I would have to get back to you on that date, but we can give you an update and I can email you.
Cool, thank you. I think that's all.
Any other commissioner comments, questions? Okay, and with that, we will move to the Public Works Department update.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Brown and Vice Chair Wright and honorable members of the Parks Commission. Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sung Yang and I'm your city engineer. I'll be filling in for our maintenance services manager, Rob Ryan, who is vacationing in Italy right now and is enjoying the hills of Tuscany. So I wish I was there with him, but I have the distinct privilege of being here to give this report. So I think I lucked out. So Number one, the basis of my report will be for CIP projects. For the ones that Rob usually does, it's more based on parks maintenance. So in a sense, this report is a little bit different, but then again, there's a lot of meaty information with respect to our CIP projects. So our engineering division is in charge of overseeing CIP projects, many of which are parks-related projects. And the one I'd like to first discuss is the Tewinkle Park Lakes project. The lake liner has been installed on the upper lake, and the upper lake is now being refilled and stocked with aquatic wildlife. The next phase is now to migrate to the lower lake, and we're going to start work in the next few days. The grading, the new lake liner, the reconstruction of the shorelines, the new landscaping around the lake, and ultimately at the end, refilling of the lake and with aquatic wildlife. There'll be a snapshot on this for this weekend, which includes really nice photos, so be on the lookout for that for this weekend. Next is Ketchum-Libel Park. The grading of the site has been completed. The installation of new walkways and playground equipment has already begun. The renovations for this park will include new shade shelters, improved lighting, new landscaping and irrigation, and increased open space. And just like Brentwood Park, we'll install new lines of poetry like we did before. And the stamps have arrived. We've ordered the stamps, and the stamps with the new poetry have came to our office. And we're going to work with the contractor, and we estimate to have it done within 2 weeks. And we're going to coordinate with our PIO, Public Information Office, and we'll do a nice photo op like we did with Brentwood Park for that. And again, this one will have a snapshot, and watch it out for that weekend with also the photos accompanying with it. Shalimar Park, as you know, the adjacent apartment building demolition has been completed. We had a groundbreaking, which was held on May 27th. The pre-construction meeting we already had with the contractor, and right now we're working with the contractor during the course of this construction. Last but not least is the Costa Mesa Skate Park. The groundbreaking we had was held on May 18th, and we had a lot of our dignitaries show up for that one, including Supervisor Foley. The pre-construction meeting already begun with the contractor in May, and we're working with the contractor during the course of the construction and with scheduling and logistics. And that's the end of my report. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up for public comment. If there's anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment. Is there anyone online?
Not at this time, Chair Brown.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, we might have questions for you, so don't leave yet. But Commissioner comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner.
I have a concern on Shalimar Park, and the concern at Ketchum, I noticed that they had like a like a root zone protection, a protection zone for the roots. It wasn't that extensive. It was maybe about 3 feet away from the trunk, which is not the best, but it's something. And I noticed that Shalimar Park didn't have any, and I had to recommend it. The following day they brought it. The only tree that's standing in Shalimar Park, which actually represents the park, there's a giant rock there in front of it that means a lot to the community that also was left behind. I'm curious, are they watering that tree? Because it looks like it's just declining rapidly.
Yes, so we received your email, Commissioner Garcia-Arcos, with respect to that tree at Shalimar Park. So that has been forwarded to our city arborist and also Rob Ryan. So they're in process of rectifying the situation.
Yeah, that's great. I just wish that we have 4 certified arborists in our city, and I don't know if that's included, Mr. Rob Ryan.
Yes.
But why wouldn't this be caught ahead of time? Like, why should I be the one bringing this up to the city? Isn't this the city's job? And the neglect that it came about, like, they were bringing these big, massive machines and destroying the whole root system. I don't even know if this tree is going to survive at this point. And so I encourage the city to look into these issues ahead of time for other parks so we can learn from this mistake. Because I hope it doesn't happen again. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing back. And if you need us to water it, just let us know.
All right.
We'll be able to take care of it.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and we'll be more vigilant with respect to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other Commissioner comments, questions? Vice Chair Wright?
Yeah, I think definitely at Harper, when we start there, we're gonna want to be really cautious of the main tree right in the middle, because that's like the primary source of shade. I know we might add shade structures for Harper, but then otherwise there's only trees all the way where the picnic tables are, and that shade doesn't reach the playground. So certainly, even though it isn't a planter, even if we're going to reconstruct the planter, we'll want to be proactive on taking care of that tree as well. I wanted to also say, on the note of the poetry in the sidewalk, the kids love it at Brentwood. It stops them. So I'm a big supporter of implementing that into all of our new projects. I mean, heck, maybe even actually on public sidewalks at different corridors and stuff. That could be fun. I live off of Newport Boulevard, and they have those old historical like emblems in the sidewalks, and those are fun to look at too, like what used to be here. I was wondering, are you the person that could maybe speak to how the boulders arrived at Brentwood Park?
You mean the boulders that were on the certain dirt paths, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I think what it was, there was a bit miscommunication with staff and with our contractor. I think there were issues about preventing some of the bike riders doing wheelies and jumps over those paths there. So as a solution, I think that the boulders were put there, but it was a miscommunication. They took the initiative, but it was the wrong route to take. But the boulders have been removed and taken back to where they are. So we're back to normal again.
Yeah, I do want to say that there was swift removal of them, which I was really happy about, but definitely got a lot of questions about how we arrived to that solution. And just for the sake of like discussion for all of us up here, you know, I'm a big fan of getting less less intense use out of parks like Fairview Park, for example. Like, we don't want our e-bike BMX kids there, and we're going to be looking into fencing and all that to prevent that. But when it comes to Brentwood and those little dirt hills, I mean, I've been watching kids, adults, roller skating, biking, even little toddlers running up and down. Like, I want to welcome that kind of use, and I don't think there's any problem with it. So, and certainly putting fun big rocks to jump off of, I don't think would have stopped them either. So, you know, I think with any of these new parks where we're going to see an increase in use, because it's so beautiful now and it's always busy, I just want you guys to know, like, I think that's what they're for. That's what the parks are for, you know? Okay, I'm trying to think if I have any other questions, but I don't think I do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions. Do you, oh, I'm so sorry, Commissioner Dorn Parker.
No. I have two quick questions.
Go for it.
When we're doing the poetry in the sidewalks, are we doing bilingual poetry? Because the one thing that was commented on Brentwood is their wonderful poetry, but if there's a way we can do Spanish and English of the poetry,
there's Spanish poetry in the park.
Yeah,
it's not translated.
It's not translated.
Right.
It's like a different poetry is what the families were saying who speak both, and they would have loved to have the poetry be equitably shared between both languages. So you have like poetry A that's in English, poetry B is in Spanish, then poetry C is in English, where many of them wanted to see those both translated both ways, so that non-English speakers can enjoy both sets of poetry. So I'm just hoping, I can't imagine this last minute, but I think that needs to be talked about and addressed so that everyone can enjoy the poetry, because they are enjoying it and the kids are doing the fingers are round. Now, I happen to know what's going on in Brentwood on that side park and the boulders. What has been happening, and I know the Rangers have been trying to do it, that side area where the boulders were put in to try to stop it has been a hellacious e-bike, e-motocross. So it's not just young kids running that we stopped, but we really need to address it in a comprehensive way so that we encourage what we know are good uses, because I think if it was non-electric, non-wattage biking on that side, that wouldn't have the harm that the e-bikes have caused. Actually, e-bikes have now been knocking over children because they're still trying to do their normal thing before Brentwood had this many people. And if the boulders are the solution, then we need to think of boulders in terms of climbing and objects and things that work within a park. So this is a good example of how do we resolve what is dangerous, but at the same time encouraging good play versus what's happening right now. It's a bigger problem than Brentwood, but I don't know. A few, when I walk there, were so glad to see those boulders. Many of them were confused if that would really work because they were worried about the BMX, especially those motor kind of e-bikes, would just fly into the walkway. So it really has to be more thoughtful then. And I understand it's a miscommunication of how, now that we see the use of the park, but we really need to think in terms of resolving what's really happening and the danger that's happening, but at the same time understanding it's getting more dangerous in some ways because the park is in enormous use, which is exciting to see. So those are my two.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I actually think that poetry in the parks is something that it might be worth us thinking about, potentially as a way for PACS and the Arts Commission and city staff to come together. What I will share, because I was on the committee that discussed what poetry was chosen for Brentwood, was that I was actually the one who asked for poetry in Spanish because we were focused on English, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, the half of our population or over half of our population who speaks Spanish had poetry as well. And we did discuss doing a translation. And this is where it becomes a challenge as you're making financial resources. Just an explanation, you know, all of those plates cost money. So if you could invest in like 2 poems and then they're both in English and Spanish, and that could be one way forward, or invest in 3, assuming that money is an object and it's a complication for us. And so I think that there are a variety of options.
I have a question. Because we own the plates, is there a way to recreate the same poetry so that you don't have to buy all new plates, so that in certain parts of the city you could continue without extensive cost?
So I think that this is what's worth discussing, is that I think having a plan for the city is what I'm proposing, where we're strategic about that. One of the ways that we did it for Brentwood and that we're moving forward is that each community gets to decide. So for Brentwood, for example, the community members wanted poetry that was nature poetry. And so we chose poems that were represented in that way. And so the way that we're moving forward currently is that each community gets to decide the poetry that represents them. I think what I'm going to do is move on. I do think this is worth a conversation. So Vice Chair Wright and I will talk to Director Gruner about how to best coordinate this, because I don't want to make this a whole agenda item. But I do think there's interest, and I hear that. Two quick questions for you. The first one is, do you have a sense of what the Lower Lakes project, what the timeline is?
For the contractor is making very good progress. We anticipate that the Lower Lakes will be done, assuming no unforeseen circumstances, by September.
Okay, great. The other is just a plea, is as soon as you know the dates for when the groundbreaking is for Ketchum Leibold or that photo op, let us know. I think a lot of us commissioners like to turn out, so just as much time as you can. It's just challenging as a working person to be able to rearrange my schedule to come, but it's really important. So just a plea for that. And I think that is it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And with that, we turn to old business. Item number 1, Parks and Recreation proposed user fee increases. Ms. Villasenor, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can direct it from there.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an old business item. We discussed this at the last meeting, and we did bring back some changes. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Ms. Acosta Reyes, our finance manager, and then we have our consultant here too. So,
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. With me here today, this evening, I have our Acting Finance Officer, Jasmine Vega, and our consultant, Terry Madsen from ClearSource Consulting. So we're here to provide some addition, to continue the discussion regarding the proposed fees for Parks and Community Services. At this time, I will turn it over to Terry Madsen.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you again this evening. I will be brief this evening since we had a robust discussion last time. And my primary purpose of being here is to say that we believe we have reflected the feedback we received from the commission, and we just want to make sure that we reflected it in alignment with what you were expecting, and to see if there's any additional direction you can provide at the conclusion of this presentation. So the first part of this presentation, many of you heard at the last meeting, so I'm going to move my way quickly through it. I only bring it up just to set the stage for the commissioner that wasn't able to be here, and if there's any interested members of the public that are participating this evening but did not participate last time. So bear with me the first part, and then the second part is specific to Costa Mesa, and it looks different than what the commission saw at the last meeting. So by way of agenda, we'll go through the background, and then we're going to talk about what is being recommended for commission consideration and next steps. As mentioned, we met with the commission on May 14th, so at the last meeting, and as part of that commission meeting, you provided several points of direction and several areas of importance to the commission. And so we're going to try and walk through each of those and say, this is how we have attempted to address that feedback. By way of reminder, Costa Mesa and cities throughout the state generally use their tax revenues to provide services that provide broad community benefit, and most commonly we would think of this as like public works services, public safety services, and so forth, general park maintenance services, and they use fees and charges to recover the cost of providing services where they see a specific beneficiary. And we commonly refer to these as user and regulatory fees. So Costa Mesa as a city is in the final stages of a comprehensive user and regulatory fee study. It is examining building permit fees, planning fees, fire fees, police fees, and so forth. And within that comprehensive fee study, the world of recreation and community services fees falls. And so we are examining those, and we are proposing to make modifications, a broad range of modifications to city fees. But what we want to draw attention to is the idea that we are focused on what we would call service-based fees. So somebody is receiving a service, like most likely permit processing or something similar. There is no examination in this study or in tonight's item of anything linked to taxation. So there's no examination of taxes, of assessments, of utility rates, or even of broad development impact fees like mitigating the impacts of new development. So the things that we encounter on a real day-to-day basis in Costa Mesa, they are not proposed as a topic of this item. These are more discrete, periodic requests for service, like I want to participate in some particular activity or reserve a space for my private use. And just in terms of general orientation, this citywide fee schedule that's maintained is about 50 pages long. I mentioned it covers every department that collects these types of fees. Every year, that fee schedule is examined, and then periodically studies are performed to ensure compliance with government code and so forth. For many categories of fees, there's periodic inflationary adjustments that are applied like each year, but for your recreation and community services fees, there have not been inflationary adjustments applied over the last several years. So this year, moving into 26-27, the staff anticipates delivering a fee schedule to the City Council, and as part of the formal resolution that the City Council would adopt, it would address the idea of applying inflationary updates to fees sort of across the board in the interim years, instead of saying, let's let these fees stagnate for a decade between major studies. So final reminder is, Costa Mesa is not unique when it does these types of studies. These are common to your neighbors. They happen all over California. And the number one reason they happen is because you want to ensure compliance with legal requirements. The California Constitution and the California Government Code help us understand the difference between taxation and cost recovery from fee-related services. So we want to make sure we comply with that. And then I think this was a broad idea that was proposed in the prior meeting, was when we recover the costs of these specific services, you are by definition freeing up resources to be used for some other community good. It might be more general park maintenance, park rehabilitation, something, but there is an offset. So it's like if I recover these costs, I am by definition freeing up resource to be used elsewhere. And then this final bullet that I think is of particular importance to the commission and to your policymakers is this idea of when I recover my costs, I position Costa Mesa to continue to meet the service level expectation of the community. So now everything that you just heard, you had heard in the prior meeting, and so I moved quickly through it. These next few slides will look different than what you received in the prior meeting. So in our prior meeting, we said the vast majority of your fees are proposed to remain unchanged. And now what you're going to see is actually the vast majority of your fees are proposed to change. And we'll talk in the next slide about the direction of that change. So there's a few fees that are proposed to remain unchanged. We're calling them fees for the sake of like making it easy for people to understand. They are actually deposits. They're refundable deposits. So if I want to rent a room, I want to make sure not damage it. So most of those that are proposed to remain unchanged are deposits. There is one new fee proposed. We talked about that, which is the tournament use fee. And now we're going to spend time talking about these fees that are proposed to increase. So if you look through the schedule provided to the commissioners, most of the fees are proposed to increase by about 30%. And if we think through that 30% change, the driver of it is as follows. For the vast majority of these fees, the last time they were significantly updated was January 1, 2019. If we look at your regional cost inflation since January 1, 2019, it's been about 30%. So if the city had just applied a annual inflationary adjustment, the annual inflationary adjustment would have worked out to about 4% a year. And so you're essentially just doing a catch-up. If you think about the change in California minimum wage since that time, it's been very similar to this number. And a lot of times in recreation and community services, you use seasonal workforce, you use temporary workers in the summer. Their pay scales are frequently linked to that minimum wage as the baseline and then sort of an influencer of any pay beyond that. So we think it makes mathematical sense, reasonable sense, and so that's what's being proposed. The commission also stressed the idea of being very cautious around things that would affect youth and things that would affect seniors. I know you've had to make decisions regarding senior programming recently, and so we were saying let's be very cautious about any additional. I wanted to identify that there are very, very minor changes proposed to senior aquatics. And when I say minor, I mean turning something from $34 to $35, but very, very small. So we tried to honor that feedback. Your resident youth programming fees, we tried to honor that and say very cautious with those changes while acknowledging and sort of saying to ourselves, the direction we heard was we don't want to leave things unchanged for a decade, and we want to sort of position ourselves to think through this idea of annual refinement and adjustment. And so it's just this minor annual change. And so we think that it aligns even to recent change in regional costs, even for the prior year. Another point of feedback we received from the commission was this idea of, and I think this was brought up by the vice chair who had done some of her own research and saying, I think that if we made these kind of adjustments, that we wouldn't be positioning Costa Mesa as a regional outlier. So no one on the commission wanted to position Costa Mesa as some sort of regional outlier or say to yourselves, like, we have essentially eliminated our customer base. We, because you do have multiple priorities and multiple ripple effects and things to think through, but you said to yourself, I think we could do this without having somebody come and say, you're now a total anomaly. And we talked about the challenges of comparing facilities and what you get in a rental in one community versus another, the age of the facility and so forth. But what we said to ourselves is, what if we told ourselves, let's think about desirable spaces, spaces that people would want access to in multiple communities, and what would you pay? And I'll make one final point that the commission brought up was this idea of preferring your residents and their access to non-residents, and attempting to continue to support like nonprofit activity partners in Costa Mesa. And so we identified nonprofit renter rates, resident renter rates, and non-resident renter rates. And in all areas, we felt like we were seeing consistent with what the vice chair was seeing, that you could adjust fees. And if you did, you wouldn't position Costa Mesa as a regional outlier. And you would continue to prefer residents, and you would continue to prefer nonprofits. And your schedule already does that. It already distinguishes between resident and non-resident. And so we have focused on that. We have not deviated from that. And in cases where we were we were directed to prioritize youth, we prioritized Costa Mesa youth. And so we feel like that is the direction we heard, and we tried to incorporate it. If you have any additional direction from us, we would love to receive it. Otherwise, I think what staff is hoping, as Ms. Villaseñor mentioned, that your municipal code actually says that the city council has bestowed upon you sort of power to direct and inform. And so I think staff is hoping that you would decide tonight whether you would like to move forward with this, knowing that your idea is to move forward. Your idea is not perfection. Your idea is move forward, and you continue to refine over time as you receive better information. You update your policies and procedures and so forth. So I think that is the idea, is would this be a schedule you would feel comfortable moving forward with, knowing that at any time you can then move and sort of refine on a case-by-case basis as needed. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you for all of the work and for being such a good sport at the last meeting and getting all of our feedback. Really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure to go through this document. Just to give everyone a sense of where we're headed, I'd like to start with commissioner questions. So it's the usual thing I do. If you have particular questions, then I would like to open it up to public comment. And then I think it's time for us to make recommendations to move this forward in whatever way we see fit. Does that sound okay? So are there commissioner questions? Vice Chair Wright.
Hi, I'll just stick to questions. I'll save my compliments for later. So cost recovery before was 17%. With a $70K projected revenue increase, do we have any ballpark numbers for what this updated schedule, what the impact could be on both of those?
So I'm going to go ahead and jump in because at the last meeting, our consultant only promised what we can do. A much larger cost recovery on our whole fee schedule would take a bigger amount of time, and we can look at that at a future meeting, but that would take a significant more amount of research and preparation in looking into some of our programs and services and what the cost and the revenue that we bring in from everything to get you that kind of number.
Even like a ballpark, you could maybe guess now? No?
Yeah, I mean, because there's so many fees in this schedule, that it would take more than one meeting's gap. We only have 2.5 weeks before we post the next agenda. So we would really have to work through our whole fee schedule to look at some of those revenue numbers.
I feel like just for the sake of the conversation, since the previous one was $70K, could we at least confidently say a range of 150 or more?
So you are hearing from me, not your staff. So please do not trap them into this answer and say, you told me. I feel compelled to attempt to answer your question. And I do think, if I'm interpreting the numbers correctly, and you did not have a sort of decline in participation, I feel like you would move your cost recovery number up a couple percentage points. You would be closer to 20% cost recovery now than the 17% aggregate cost recovery. And I think your end fiscal impact could be in the $200,000 range. Please, if it ends up at 50, you heard it from me, not staff.
Thank you so much. I'm totally comfortable with a vague, non-promise
It is intended to
answer.
be an educated estimate.
That is great, I think, just for the sake of the conversation. So, and then thank you for adding in community gardens into here. And I'll leave it to public comment.
Other commissioner questions? We're going to stick to questions before we discuss. No. Okay, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, is there no public comment? Is there anyone online?
Currently, there are no members on Zoom.
Okay, so now it's time for us to discuss. So opening this up, I'm curious if there are, I would like to open it up so commissioners can respond as they would like. The way that I'm going to respond, there are one or two fees that I have some concerns about, but otherwise I'm comfortable. And so that's what I'm going to use my time for, but I'd like to privilege you all first. Vice Chair Wright.
I would like to open up by saying I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased. I think this is really good. I think it's modest. So I think I want to thank Commissioner Ledger for being protective of the residents and not wanting to push that any more than we should. At the same time, seeing non-residents are only getting a CPI adjustment increase, I think is very modest. And I would even be willing to table a multiple for us to talk about down the road. But for the sake of this moment in time where there's already momentum going to council, this is our chance to sort of just blanket cover all of our services. I think 17% for cost recovery is way too low. Not having increased this since 2017 or 2019 is way too long. And I want to ensure that we can sustainably keep doing all the services that we do. I think that's kind of the big wake-up call we all had with the senior transportation program is we definitely don't want to have to cut anything down the road. So to see that we don't even max out the 30% on a lot of these, I'm completely comfortable with that. And I think for the others that are 30%, it's completely like an industry-backed number. So I'm feeling great about this. I also am eye on the prize of this increase in revenue and general funds going towards our C-rated parks and being able to pick up one more park project a year from this, that would be amazing. So I want to know what practical next steps are based off of staff recommendation. I'm reading adopt updated schedule, but is that possible to do now, or is the formal motion to this is what we recommend to the council? How does that work? Is it both the same, or are they two different things?
What we're seeking tonight here is your recommendation. We plan to go to council August 4th with the whole consolidated master fee schedule. So at that time, we would like to incorporate your changes, and we can let council know that we presented to the PACS Commission, and this is what the recommendation was in regards to your guys' fees. Although, as is previously stated, you do have the authority to, update the fees as you guys see fit.
Great. So yeah, I feel like that was really clear in our last meeting. So I just kind of want to say I'm feeling very comfortable and confident to support this to council. However, I would like to put a couple of pins in future conversations for us all to discuss, which would be those sports user groups. And I would like us to consult, meet with them, do actual community outreach. The non-resident multiplier, I think let's just make that a separate convo. And then any other fees that you guys, let's treat this like a consent calendar. If there's anything you guys want to either hash out now, see if we can get a majority, or let's just put a pin in it. We'll save it for later. That's kind of would be my hope for tonight. And I'm not making a motion right now. That's just kind of where I'm thinking the night should go. So otherwise, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is a perfect example of like what our commission can accomplish and like the real substantive type of work we're looking to make. And it's not very often that in local government we are talking about increasing revenue. So I really am appreciative of being in this seat in this moment.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Ledger.
I agree with Vice Chair Wright that we definitely need to discuss the non-residents fees and what was the other one you said? I know I agreed on it. Thank you, sports user groups, sorry. But I also, one thing, I absolutely love this. I love all of this except for the facility deposit going from 100 to 300. A deposit is most likely given back, so I don't like pricing our residents out of facility usage. So that's my only thing. Otherwise, I love everything on this.
Do you want to make a particular recommendation around that?
Yeah, I think if we're going to increase it, just 150, but I'd say don't increase it at all.
Okay. Other commissioners? Commissioner Dorn Parker.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Chair. I would like this to move forward as is. I really appreciate how much our consultants and the city staff listen to us, that we are not recovering more than the cost increase to provide these services. We also thank you for that graph that showed us even if we get up to where we should have been had we doing the increase, we're still one of the most reasonably community priced facilities, which, you know, is wonderful. It gives us more ability to do things. But I do think that I would like to add that in 6 months, I'd like it to be agendized to look at fees that a few of us find should be increased more or re-examine, and I agree with the sports user fees. The other area that I think we need to re-examine, but I think right now, just increasing where it is the fly field rental, is the fly field fees. That we know that there's extensive costs to that, so we just have to make sure the fees, especially the non-resident fees, are more in line with what the cost of the fly field. It's on the very first page, fly field permits. So those would be my caveats, and to make sure our non-resident fees, there's not any more wiggle room to increase those, especially in those open court and things. I still think that's low for our surrounding community, but I think as is, this is bringing in line. And I also would like to see the PAX Commission come back in a year to confirm an increase based on the CPI, because we know the CPI right now is outrageously high, and see where it goes, because we know that impacts our city employment, our city facilities, and the cost of everything. So that would be what I think we should be doing, is to bring it back for some of these changes. I wouldn't be opposed to reducing the rental fees, security, because it could take out some of our residents, but also I don't know if you either need that increased fee because there's been an experience to show that that's important for certain facilities, or that that's just going in line with an increase. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to weigh in for one moment because it sounds like there's comfort with most of it. The one element that I'm not comfortable with are the community gardens, and that's because we have a subcommittee working on community gardens. And so I would propose, because that work is ongoing and that's something that we're going to talk about in a future agenda item, I would propose that we not touch community gardens, that we don't change those fees at all, because this group that's working on community gardens, that's one of the things they're going to be researching. And they might come back with something even more, something different. And we can always change those. That's the one where I'm like, let's not touch it. Let's leave it as is, because we are doing so much research on it. So that's the one thing, that's my contribution. I think let's keep things simple, especially when we're thinking about communicating this to the public. It sends mixed messages to me. So that's my contribution.
And just to confirm, we can, once the report comes back, it sounds like we are charged by the city council that we may raise fees without going to the city council. So that gives me great comfort. Thank you. I just want to reconfirm.
Commissioner Kamala.
Just once again, thank you. I saw you again here, and I was like, oh, I hope he has an easier night tonight. So thanks for coming back, and more importantly, just thanks for taking our feedback and implementing it. Love it. I want to take it as is. I think as we talk about things we're going to look at in the future, looking at the fly field permits, and having maybe a slightly more aggressive stance to non-residents. I know that's kind of a point in contention with the users through Harbor Shoring Society of how many are actually Costa Mesa residents. So that's something to take a look at, especially considering the fees that are, or the costs that are going to be incurred by moving that fly field over to the east side. So just something, put a pin in it for later, but thank you once again.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you again for listening to our recommendations and concerns. I am really pleased with what I saw. I also wanted to ask you a question for the rental fee security. If you increase from 100 to 300, let's say we don't increase and we leave it at 100, and the damages exceed 100 deposit, do we ask for a larger deposit, or how does that work out?
Do you want me to start, Monique, and then you can? So I just want to confirm that the vast majority of your deposits are not changing. There's a deposit that's associated with events that have 50 people or more. That's the only one that's changing, is if you are asking to have 50 people or more. And over, we hear from public works departments that when you bring that many humans, there is likely to be damage. But you are essentially trying to encourage them to remember to not damage. That is the whole purpose of a deposit. You actually want to give it back to them. You're just trying to make them think, I actually want it back too, and it's worth not damaging this area to get it back. But I do think you reserve the right to recover any damages. You're just starting by saying, I'm gonna hold this. Please remember, if you want it back, don't damage this facility. But again, it's for large groups.
And I just want to add on to that. So we're talking specifically about the park rental fee deposit. So there's other facilities, like Norma Herzog. We're not talking about those deposits. This was specifically the 100 to 300 for the deposit for 50 plus attendees on the park rental. So I could tell you, we hardly ever charge that deposit specifically, because most of the time when a park has 50 plus, it triggers a special event. And then now that's a special event fee and a whole different process through TESA. So we occasionally have park rentals that have 50 plus attendees that don't trigger special events, and then we might charge that. So, but typically we have, the deposits that we do charge are vendor deposits, which are not changing in this fee schedule, which is like a bounce house vendor or, any other kind of vendor. So those are not changing, but 50 plus people usually means something larger. They want to bring on a stage or something that maybe not trigger a special event, but that rarely happens.
Great, thank you. Thank you for answering that. And then I wanted to also echo what our chair mentioned about waiting for the community gardens. I think we have something brewing right now, and we've had a lot of great feedback from residents, and we're looking forward to getting more information on that. Thank you.
Any other commissioner conversation? Vice Chair Wright.
So Commissioner Ledger, how does that change your feelings on it?
Actually, then I would increase it to 200, not 300.
Cool. I'm comfortable, so in response to community gardens, I think I don't want to put that user group through 2 fee changes in the next year. I do want to say, though, I support increasing their rates. I think if we want to grow the program, the current price point is not sustainable. It's definitely less than 17% cost recovery. So yeah, I'm totally comfortable. I also love Commissioner Dorn Parker's intention of like, let's make sure we agendize this to follow up on it. And piece it out based off of the user groups that we talked about previously. But yeah, I'm ready to make a motion. Aha, I'm so excited. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve, what is this item called?
I think they're identifying it as a proposed update to user fees is the agenda title.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the Parks and Recreation proposed user fee increases as presented with 2 changes. The park facility, or this, what are we calling this? The facility deposit for
Park rental.
The
Park rental
full
fee
security
deposit for the
deposit
50-plus attendees.
for more than 50 people. Did you say 200? To 200. And to currently suggest no fee increases to community gardens.
And I'll second that
That's
motion.
it.
So we have a motion by Vice Chair, and I think Commissioner Garcia Arcos, though, was going to second it. Commissioner Dorn Parker, are you okay with that?
Yeah,
My mic was off.
good for me. Yes. We can change that to Garcia Arcos.
Commissioners may vote on your dais. Motion carries 7-0.
Congratulations, all. Thank you so much. We're good. That's sailed. That ship has sailed. Thank you so much for coming out again tonight. This is really inspiring. We're excited to be continued. All right. Thank you all. Bye. I'm going to look at the time. I think we can keep moving this along. Let's move to old business item number 2, the Parks and Community Services Commission Annual Report. I will turn it over to Ms. Villaseñor with just an update that this includes an update from Commissioner Garcia Arcos. But I will hand it over to you, Ms. Villaseñor.
So as discussed at the last meeting, this will be a presentation that will be going to council. Commissioner Garcia Arcos did submit some suggestions, which Ms. Fatura helped update into this report. And now I will open it up for a commission discussion.
So I wanted to give Commissioner Garcia Arcos a chance to talk to his proposed inclusions. It is the highlighted piece of this report, though. So those are the 2 additions. But Commissioner, would you like to speak to your additions?
I want to turn on my mic first. So I encourage to change the location for concerts in the park. As we all know, it's a park that is preserved and it has a lot of endangered species. And I think it's important to think long term, like what are we doing? And we're celebrating. That's a great place to celebrate, but I think we can move it to a different place. Maybe a concrete lot or something away from these endangered species that right now they're actively nesting, and it's actually illegal to disturb them right now. And so we want to be conscious of that. So that's one of the recommendations that I did. And then the second one was revisit Bright View. That was already there. But then I also added Priority LLC, which is a third party that the city is contracting currently to do the Young Tree Care program. And I want to make sure that all the commissioners here are aware. I have a few trees outside of my street in Shalimar that some we planted and some were planted by the city. And I came back from vacation one day when I went to the annual conference, and they massacred them. I mean, they really went at it. And it's disappointing because I felt like I was holding and I was just saving those trees to make sure that they mature properly. When I came back, I saw improper cuts. I mean, they raised up the canopy on. It was just wrong. And I was really looking forward to those trees. Now I'm gonna do my best to try to give recommendations, but let's look into what Priority LLC is doing. That's not the only time that I've seen them do that. So it's something that, as a commission, I encourage you all to bring this agenda item forward to see if we can encourage them to change the practices or get people that are qualified for these practices for our trees. That's our assets, not theirs. We're the ones that are living with these trees, not them. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to open this agenda item up to the public, and then we can have a conversation about the additions. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, Ms. Fatua, is there anyone online?
Not at this time, Chair Brown.
Okay, this is now open for us to discuss. Again, this is the presentation that Vice Chair Wright and I will make to City Council, setting our agenda. It's not to say we're going to move concerts in the park out of Fairview. It's that we want to have a conversation about it on PAX and make sure that it's open to the public. So this is just some goal setting for us. Are there any questions, comments, suggestions? Commissioner Darn Parker.
So I've been asking the city the whole time I've been on the commission to please explore moving concerts in the park. And I've offered, and now that I'm an elected official in the Coast Community College District, we have Orange Coast College that now has really great bike lanes. Thank you, city, on Merrimack and now Adams. We have ample parking lots. We also have this huge center quad, which now one of the quad was sunk down and they realized that was not workable for a college that has 25,000 students crossing it every day. So now it's all even. And I'm pretty certain, I'm only one of 5 members that vote, but I'm pretty certain this would be absolutely what a community college should be about. Ample electricity, ample places to put up a stage, we have large walkways to put up with and have easy access for food trucks. And then I know there was issues prior, which I think has been cleared, about having our foundation, Costa Mesa Foundation, be able to raise money through their beer gardens. That's been cleared. So it's not that I've been whining and complaining without a solution. I don't believe our Lions Park is large enough. It absolutely doesn't have. None of the other areas are impacted. So thank you. And it's not that I think that's a solution, but I'm not going to whine and be complaining we can't be protecting our park from nesting, and then we come in and destroy that through these lovely concerts. So I really think this needs to be done now, is to make a decision. And I know this summer it's not going to happen, but I will absolutely support that. We have to put this in motion. We cannot continue to talk out of both sides of our mouth. So thank you, and thank you for also, I know nothing about trees other than I enjoy them, so I really appreciate the bringing up about how the work that's being done and being paid for isn't doing the best for the investment we made. So I want to thank you for doing that. Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ledger.
So yeah, I actually love the idea of having the concerts at OCC, especially since I live walking distance, so won't have to worry about parking. But I also want to add that anything Commissioner Garcia Arcos says we need to do about trees, that's all I need to know, and I'll support it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions, comments, suggestions? Commissioner Houston.
Thanks. I think, as I'm kind of like examining my role on PAX, I think that, protecting the park, particularly Fairview, with it being, I'll say very nature friendly and protecting the animals, is really paramount, but I did just want to give my 2 cents, even if it's an unpopular opinion, that I love parks. Concerts in the park at Fairview, and being able to like sit on the grass and going with family is a huge benefit. So when I'm hearing about moving it elsewhere, that's the first thing I'm thinking of. And Fairview's close to my house too, but not having to sit on the grass, it does make the experience just a little bit different. And so obviously there's competing interests, and it is super important to take care of those animals. But I did just want to add that for whatever it's worth, I do love concerts in the park at Fairview.
And when we have this agenda item, we'll get to have this robust discussion with lots of members of the public. So be prepared for that one. Vice Chair Wright.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Parks and Community Services Commission report to City Council.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Commissioners may vote on your dais. Motion carries 7-0.
Yay, thank you. Okay, moving right along to old business item number 3, the new community garden location study. I think we're all really excited for this one. Ms. Villasenor, it's yours.
Again, I'm just here, Commission, to introduce the item, as this is a continuation of last month's item, and I think it was about formalizing the actual evaluation team. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to you, Chair.
Okay, so as I understand it, the subcommittee evaluation team would like to do a presentation, right? Talk us through some updates. So I think that's one thing. No? Yeah, okay. That's my understanding. And then secondly, this is an opportunity for all of us to weigh in terms of what we would like to see with this program, right? So we have this evaluation team that has a scope of work in development. I know that I have a variety of things that I would like to see you all work on and come back with. This is an opportunity to do that. And so from here, we can then talk next steps when we want to have you back. And it might be that you can let us know when you're ready to come back. But this is our opportunity to get everything out for members of the public to weigh in. So I'd like to start with, if the evaluation team has a mini presentation, or whatever word you want to use for it, an update. If you have an update, we can start there and then open it up. All right, Commissioner Kamala, I think you're it, right?
Cool. Yeah, the update feels like less pressure than presentation, so we'll go from there. But no, it was really great to get out there. I think we started some communication before we hit the gardens. I know we'd seen some of the gardens, we had experience with it, but spending more intentional time was definitely value added. I think we started with the big picture, right? We started with the end in mind. So we said, there's significant shortage of available space. Both gardens have like huge wait lists. I think it was 60 for the Del Mar Gardens, or 183 for Del Mar, and like 50 or 60 for Hamilton. Walking through the space, just a couple of ideas quickly that we saw was there's opportunity at the Hamilton Garden to push forward the fence pending any potential setbacks from the city. We measured it out, and that would create an additional 5,775 square feet of space, which I think we estimated could get us up to 25 plots. And I think that was estimating using the current size. So if we went with the new recommendation of splitting the plots, we'd be able to double that and solve the problem right away. So that was at Hamilton. One of the other concerns that was brought up at the previous meeting was a parking solution. We discussed possibly partnering with Rio Elementary for parking there. Let's see, for Del Mar, initial thoughts, we looked about increasing density. I remember someone had brought up potentially moving the mulch pile. And as we walked it, there's just a huge amount of space between the current plots. So adding the smaller raised beds, like maybe an 8x8 raised beds in between, would still make it ADA accessible between the beds and actually add accessibility because I think gardening directly on the ground versus a raised bed creates some accessibility issues. So I think it could, improve the accessibility piece. And so we talked through that and really just space reorganization. There were some young fruit trees. We looked and we talked about potentially making like an orchard area, which would create even more space for 10 additional beds. So I think just mapping out the existing space we had and maximizing that, I think we could do a lot with not a huge financial investment, which I like. And I feel like it would be something that could turn the corner quickly. And when we spoke to residents that were there, they actually, they supported the idea. I think we even discussed an idea that that Vice Chair Wright brought up where we would do a check-in process, right, in 6 months to see like, how's the gardening growing? Oh, everything you're growing died and this isn't for you? Great. Like maybe you don't want the plot anymore. I think that would help, excuse me, help kind of provide more access there. And I know Commissioner Ledger and actually all of us really talked about how do we verify residency, right? How do we make sure that they are Costa Mesa residents who own it? Because I think that there is some opportunity there from what we saw. And then finally, I think, revisiting the plot size. We talked a little bit about a bike rack, and I kind of saved the last piece for kind of the big wish item. I think the top thing on the wish list was how do we find the magic plot, as we called it, just right down the street or right down around the corner from the Hamilton plot was the plot that was discussed in public comments earlier. The address is 2037 Charlie Street. Looked it up at the the land assessment's at $30,000. I don't think title has changed hands often, but I am having a little bit of trouble finding the title information for it in the owner. So that's kind of where we're at. It looks like it's a multi-unit plot, so it's a very large, deep plot, and we took some pictures of it too. So we, when the time comes and we present, we'll take these ideas, we'll consolidate them. We took some pictures that day of where we could plot it out. But I think with what we have, just initially, we have a lot of great ideas. The next steps for us is using events like concerts in the park, coming up with some key things that we want to hear from the community about feedback and their ideas, and then continuously evolving a QR code. We also are trying to coordinate some time with staff. We had some additional questions about the gardens and the usage, and we wanted to get a little bit of clarity, which will help us kind of put together the questions for the community. So that's where we're at. And like I said, it was super fun, and it made me really sad at how terrible of a gardener I am, because I saw the size of everything that grew and the strawberries that were there, and I got excited by the 5 I grew this year. So some amazing gardeners out there. So it's great.
Thank you all so much. I just want to say how inspiring this is. Having been on PAC 6 years, I feel like we're doing real work, and this is one of those where I'm really excited to actually have a chance to deep dive into this program and to think about how we want to move it forward. And I just want to acknowledge, like, this is also a potential revenue source for us and a community builder. And I'd probably flip those. It's a community builder and a revenue generator. But no, that matters. That matters as we're thinking about what this program can do, and that even just like moving a fence can bring in some money and bring in more people to participate. So I just want to say that's inspiring. If you all don't mind, I'm going to invoke chair's privilege and go first and go down my list of things. And then Liz, I'm looking at you because I know you have data interests as well, as we all do. First, for city staff, when we're working on this program, pretty please, can we get some social media around it? I really think that it would be helpful as what further down the road, not right now. What do we want to know from people around community gardens, and how can we utilize the city's social media in order to get this and engage people, right? So that, I appreciate ribbon cuttings and things like that on social media, but social media is also a way to actually engage people to get some feedback. So I would love a request for that. Okay, so I want comparative analysis right? So I would like to know, as you're looking at cities of our size, what do garden programs look like in those cities? What are their size plots? Not because we're going to copy it, but just so that we know, right? Like, what's a typical size of a plot? How many locations do they have in a city of our size? Are there any gardens or best practices or models in these cities where things that you've learned from them, so that you can collect what other people have done really well or hasn't worked, and then we can build on it so we're not recreating the wheel? I'm especially interested in this idea of different kinds of engagement. So like the mentorship idea of how gardeners can mentor other gardeners. Are there programs that already do that? What does youth involvement in gardens look like in other cities? Like, how is that involved? How are the schools involved? What are those relationships? Like, for example, I know that at Costa Mesa High School, there's a garden there. My daughter's biology teacher runs it, and so the bio kids, like, that's what you do in class once a week. I'm just curious, are there other what are the ways to connect, and what are the models for that? So those are some of the comparative analysis. I'm also interested in what plots cost, and that's why I didn't want to approve what came before us. Is I'd actually like to know what community garden plots cost in other cities. What does revenue look like? Should we anticipate revenue? What does actually the investment look like? So what does it cost the city to do those plots too, so that we can have just a real picture, which is not that we don't want to do it, but just what does it cost? What do we get out of it? I'm also really interested in non-traditional garden spaces. So that public-private, and thinking about how to activate that, how to think about, are there residents who have spaces maybe at their homes that they would be happy to give over, right? And what do those agreements look like? Surely other cities have done that. What can we learn from them? I mean, there's so much to say there, but that's like an interest of mine. I know, for example, that UC Irvine has a really robust garden. Ms. Fatua, I have a connection there who helps run that garden. So should the evaluation team want to meet with her and with the UCI people, I'd be happy to facilitate that.
If you provide me with the contact.
I will do that. There's also a research report written by a doctoral student who's working in the community garden. And so she probably has some data so that you can actually just read the report versus doing some of this. So I will send that to you. I think focus groups are really important. So I feel strongly about this. I want to make sure that you all have a chance to do focus groups. And for me, focus groups would be with the current gardeners. And then you should think about, what do you want to learn from them? What do we want to hear from them? All of it. I think the future gardeners, so people who are on the wait list, I'd like to hear from them, and I'd like you to have a set of questions for them. What do we know? What do we want to know? And then, because of the conversation that we've all engaged in, I'm interested, like those park deserts and places where there's high density housing. Is there a focus group that we could do that identifies those individuals as being a part, or making sure that those individuals are a part as well? So they're not future gardeners in the sense that they're not on our wait list already, maybe because they don't know, or they haven't thought about it, or they were on it and they decided to drop off. But I would be curious to hear from them, just so that as we're putting together a program, like, we're trying to represent a variety of interests. I'm really interested in garden education for kids and teens. So I will say that's a particular interest of mine. And so that's something that could be developed simultaneously as we're doing this and thinking about partnering with different organizations. I just think, as we're thinking about our future and that whole, like, we're growing our food and our future, like, our kids need to be a part of that because they are our future, not to be cliche, but it's a fact. So those are my interests. I'll stop there and open it up to other commissioners. These are our wish lists. Commissioner Dorn Parker.
I am so thrilled with the work that the task group has started. Thank you so much. If you haven't known me, like to take an idea, but also think outside the box for those in the community that don't have, especially those that have no space. And I heard very specifically, the community gardeners are a certain culture. They enjoy sharing. They like to be together. They like to share information. But what about those communities that live on a balcony or live and they don't want to share, but they want to have resources and information. I've learned over my experience to pass the mic. I think I know how to solve what I think they need, but I would like to hear from those parts of our community, especially those who represent the communities with high density, low participation, inability to transport themselves, inability to actually buy seeds and fertilizer and things they need. I would love to understand what they think they could use with a community garden, that maybe their community is next to the walkway of an apartment building. So that I love this, but I think this is the beginning of really recognizing. I love our chair's idea. We have a lot of large housing that are trying to pull out their grasses, but they don't know what to put in. And I've seen this in other high density where they say, come take over my front yard. I don't know what to grow. I don't know how to irrigate. So that I would love to explore those options of those parts of our community that would like to be part of it. They don't know how, they don't want to garden themselves, they don't want to grow food themselves, but they would love to make their front yard available to others. So that is just great. And while you're at UCI, I would also like, if the task force would like, OCC has a world-renowned horticulture. They're doing aquaponics, which I know you know. So we did have a vast community garden for 50 years, but it began to age out is the best way to describe it, is those that had it no longer wanted to, and they didn't have the capacity, thinking of ADA. And they ended up not having anybody want to join in for a variety of reasons. But I would love to share the contact at OCC, Joe, and see if they can be available, because it's an educational entity, kind of like the Costa Mesa. So I always ask about what ifs. I love the task force. I love how you're thinking. How do we just redesign the space? How do we utilize what's maybe right there? But how do we grow that concept of community garden to front yards and to balconies and to porches? Thank you. This is great. This is very exciting.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kamala.
Well, one thing I wanted to address, I know we brought up focus groups. We also had a plan on August 25th. The community gardens have a mandatory cleanup day where everyone has to participate. So we're going to use that as an opportunity to connect with as many of the members of the community garden as possible. So that's one thing we can do. And then we also had discussed, and I forgot to bring this up, that if other commissioners, if you guys have not been to both community gardens, that not to violate Brown Act, connect with each one of us individually. Cannot do that? Okay. Then let me not suggest that. So I can send you pictures maybe or something. So, but anyways, so August 25th, we will have kind of that focus group that you talked about. So we'll get a big group there.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Just a question on that. For August 25th, if it's a city event, mandatory, no?
Only members.
Vice Chair Wright.
Definitely my kudos to you guys. I'm so glad we're already figuring out how to maximize our existing gardens. And I guess my question is I'm most curious about exploring other existing publicly owned city land. Is that on the table still, we think? Yeah, okay, I'm saying nodding head, so I'm assuming yes.
And let me just reiterate that when Mr. Ryan comes back, that's something that we can look at park tours with the working group, and look at some of those spaces if they wanted to take a deeper dive into some of our already existing places.
Cool. So my request / contribution to your guys' research would be to pull up the zoning map of the city and look at the high density housing neighborhoods and look at what's within 10-minute drives of those neighborhoods. That's city-owned land. That could be a park. That could be the rec center and like the land between the rec center to Norma Herzog. It could be City Hall. Could be the golf course. Now I just have to keep making that joke every time, but like I'm kind of serious. And my, I guess, ideal vision was we do like a pop-up community garden. It's just a chain link fence, and it's like we cut off the corner of a park. There's already irrigation running there. There's already electricity running there. So typically there's already bathroom amenities, those kind of things. So that to me would be something I would love to get. You guys do the research. I would love to get behind something like that and then suggest CIP funds attached to it, budget increases attached to it, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I'm loving the maximizing what we have, talking to existing stakeholders. But when I'm dreaming big, I'm like, I'd love to have it be maybe somewhere a third, fourth location. Yeah, thanks. Also, according to the staff report, do we need to officially make a motion to approve the committee members, the subcommittee members?
I thought we voted
A
already.
working group, not a subcommittee. Just gonna clarify.
It's an evaluation
An
team.
evaluation
It says
team.
evaluation team.
Task for community garden.
Task force, evaluation task force.
So review and
Squad.
finalize. So do we want to end this discussion with an official,
We're-
or we're good there administratively?
The feedback provided to the task force is, I think would be sufficient if you guys
And
are
we're not,
done.
and we still have to open, I want to open it up to public comments, and we're still, yeah. Commissioner Garcia Arcos.
Yeah, thank you for that, the feedback. We were not expecting to do a presentation, so that kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, the update and update, yeah, and it was great. I mean, you really do listen to us too. I did want to also mention this: the fencing, as we recommended to expand it to the sidewalk, we would have to remove some ornamental pear trees, which are not the best structured; they're not mature. And then grass. I mean, who wants grass, right? And then some shrubs. So I encourage the city to find a contractor that can repurpose the fence. I mean, there's a large amount. It could be like 75% of the new construction. So it's a large fence. It goes all in a circle. So that would be something that maybe we can note on to see if we can repurpose the existing fence. And one thing, and I always come with bad news, I'm sorry. But the mulch on Hamilton is really bad. I wouldn't use it. I would not use it on my garden. I would not let kids get near that. It had trash, and I don't even want to tell you what bugs I found too. I came across. So I'm recommending, I don't know if we have to move this forward or city staff can do this for us, remove that mulch and get good mulch. If you want me to donate, I'm happy to donate it, but we want real mulch. It had so much plastic in it that I don't know why we weren't able to see that, or staff wasn't able to see that. And I hope that this comment also just kind of goes beyond today or for the future, that we don't make that mistake again. I mean, we're trying to invest, right, with our community members that want to be engaged. And so I don't know why they haven't brought it up either. So, and then the one Del Mar, I found 5 pieces of trash, so that one's okay. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ledger.
So first, I don't understand why, if the commission is overseeing the community gardens, why we can't have access to them. Like, why did we need to get keys? Like, if we're supposed to be, part of our job, we're supposed to be walking the parks and checking in on everything. So why do we not have more access?
So the keys are like a facility. So we, like, if the DRC or the Norma Herzog Community Center is closed, we close it because it's a closed and membership only facility. We don't, you don't want somebody coming in there picking somebody's fruit for free or any of their vegetables or any of that. So every gardener who becomes a member gets their own key to be able to come in and out. And it's not an open public walk-through park, if that makes sense.
No, I understand, but shouldn't the commission, at least, if Commissioner Brown, Chair Brown, wants to check it because it's in her neighborhood, it's in her district, she oversees that on the PAC, shouldn't she have access to it?
She can have access to it if she just contacts one of us as staff member. We can meet anybody out there. like I said, same thing as the Norma Herzog Center. The Norma Herzog Center is closed on the weekend day or before we open for the day. And if a commissioner wanted to schedule time to visit it outside of normal operating hours, we can have a staff open it.
Okay. And then, yeah, I also want to say the difference in the mulch between Hamilton and Del Mar was astounding. It was like, why does Del Mar get the better mulch? Like, no, like seriously, you should go see the mulch. It was really bad at Hamilton. It was so bad. And I think everyone else already said what I wanted to say. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open this up for public comment, and then if there are any final comments, we can make them. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment? Thank you both for being patient. Turn on your mics. You want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Hi again. So I had the opportunity to walk with Commissioner Arcos to the Hamilton Community Garden. It was my first time there. And I was super amazed at just like how incredible it is, and just seeing the new mural there too. That was just recently completed at Love Costa Mesa. I thought it was super awesome. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have murals in these community garden spaces. I think it's super rad. I'm a lifelong Costa Mesa resident, and while I'm not a gardener myself, my father is, and so I do have a connection with gardening, and I can trace it back to my childhood. I find myself wanting to learn how to garden as an adult now, and so because there's a lot of lessons in gardening I find very valuable, like patience and consistency and community and sustainability, all those awesome things that we can teach our youth. And so I look forward to seeing how we can use this space to teach our kids about all these lessons that gardening can teach them. And so I really like the idea that Commissioner Brown brought up about collaborating with Ray Elementary. I think that's an awesome idea so that we can incorporate our youth and our elementary students into these spaces. Let's see. For the subcommittee, I'm super excited about. I would like to suggest some outreach strategies. I was just surprised to learn about the community garden. And also the fact that it was been there for over 20 years. Like, I had no idea. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like me who had no idea about that garden space. And so I think just focusing on the social media, focusing on the marketing, and getting the word out there is super, super important. Also, making it more accessible to bikers. I know that there's an issue with parking and stuff like that. And so having access to bike racks, collaborating with local artists to design the bike racks, I think would be cool. I think collaborating with local ceramicists even to design the pots for some flowers would be cool. That could be another way to incorporate art and community spaces like that. What else? I would also like to echo what Commissioner Arcos mentioned about the low quality mulch. I think that's really, really concerning. And we should definitely just make sure to have the best quality mulch for this Hamilton garden space. And so, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. Commissioners. Yeah, you're doing real work. As Chair Brown mentioned, you're doing real work on this community gardens as well as other things, and this is great. The discussion amongst the commissioners, you can tell everybody's interested in this topic, and I think community gardens are terrific access for the city. And I like the collaboration ideas with UCI and OCC. I like the idea that Vice Chair brought up about the city land. Land is at a premium in Costa Mesa, open land, and if there's open space available on city property, this was not my thought, but somebody mentioned this to me a while back, could get some resistance, but the golf course. Driving in off of Tanager, there's about a 100-yard driveway, if you will, to the parking lot. And there's over on the right-hand side, against the fence that borders Tanager, there's lots of open space that's currently grass. And take some of that and plant some vegetables. To me, that's a great idea. You've got parking right there. Also, I like the ideas. I bike a lot. I like the ideas of putting bike racks at the existing community gardens, as well as any future potential new community gardens. I don't understand the mulch, the different mulch at the two locations. That just doesn't sound very good. I would think you'd have the same mulch supplier for both community gardens. And so I like the idea, if the mulch at Hamilton is crap, get rid of it and, get the good stuff. But thank you for bringing this up. I think this is a great idea. I know that the commission recommended to council as a capital item, community gardens, and I was very disappointed in council that they hardly even discussed it. And so I'm glad you guys are moving forward with this. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last thoughts, recommendations? Commissioner Garcia-Arcos.
Yeah, so just bringing up the mulch again, I feel like sometimes we have conversations and they just, wilt away. So how do we assure that this is going to happen? Is there some kind of agreement that we have to come through, or how are you going to be able to solve that?
When Mr. Ryan comes back, I'll talk it over with him. He would be the most knowledgeable, but also, working with we have a solid waste coordinator who often organizes our mulch. We give away on Earth Day, and so we'll work with him as well in our Public Works Department. So, and we can touch base with you, and I'll have Mr. Ryan maybe reach out to you and discuss this further, so he could further understand the problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two final recommendations, and they're both about next steps. The first is that I would like you all to think about when you want to report back to us. We do not have a meeting in July, so think about when you're going to be ready for that. Not tonight, but think about that. It might be, do you want to be on the agenda for August, or would September be more appropriate? So you can think about that. We need to know in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So September is what I'm hearing. Okay, so it sounds like you'll be ready to report back on some of this in September. Doesn't mean it's the final one, but like that update. Okay, September. And then the second thing is I heard concerts in the park and gardens in the same agenda item. So I'm going to just use this as an opportunity to say that we there's concerts in the park happening. We will have a commission tent there or a table there. We need to be thinking about how we want to utilize that time, and we're going to be in touch with Ms. Fatua. Do we want to ask questions about community gardens while we're there? So this is where, if you have recommendations, please send them to Ms. Fatua. I know I have some, I'll send them in, but this is our opportunity so that when all of us are staffing it, and I know that they will be in touch to get us to sign up for some times, that we're prepared to help in that. And I will leave it to city staff to decide the best way to do that. Okay, those are the final two comments. If there isn't anything else, does someone want to make a motion?
What motion do we need?
Do we need a motion for this item?
I don't think so. This is a continuum.
It's okay. It's just,
You guys gave an update and provided.
Read like we had to formally finalize the members, but if you're saying it's okay, then.
If we're good, okay.
We receive and file.
Okay, receive and file. Mm-hmm. Perfect, thank you. And now we're moving on to new business item number 1. That is the picnic day discussion. Ms. Villasenor.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. I know that this was an item that we had previously talked about. I'm not sure if it's quite ready for us or requires any additional discussion at this time. So I'm going to leave it up to the Chair's discretion as if she wants wants to push this off or discuss this maybe at a future meeting and determine some other details at a later time.
Are there, first let me see, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make any public comment around the agenda item as listed? No. Is there anyone online who would like to comment on picnic day?
Not at this time, Chair Brown.
Okay, I would recommend that we move this to a future meeting when staff have recommendations around picnic day. I know they were working on it and we're working on collaboration.
Second. We might have to.
Do we need to make, okay. So you have a motion, I'll make a motion to move this to a future meeting when there's an update.
Hey, Jay.
That are displayed, so.
Yeah, you can remove
Okay.
my name. I'm sorry.
Commissioners may vote on your dais. Motion carries 7-0.
I just want to say kudos to all of us. This has been a really productive meeting tonight. We've had a series of really productive meetings over the last 6 months. We will not be meeting next month in July. We will be engaged in doing a bunch of community outreach. Our evaluation team will continue their work, and we will reconvene on Thursday, August 13th. So have a good July and see you all around. Thank you.